You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. After last night's presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, we see more polls that came out. The snap polls last night showed that Joe Biden won that debate against Donald Trump. New polling shows Joe Biden anywhere from a 3 to a 7-point lead in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wisconsin. They're also looking at polling out of Arizona. It's very tight. He's also up 3 to 4 points in North Carolina. Very tight. Pretty much even here in Florida, but also in Texas as well. And so if you're Joe Biden, you're sitting pretty right now. What do you think is going to be the closing argument for Joe Biden and Donald Trump in these final 10 days before November 3rd?
Closing argument for Joe Biden is going to fall on three things: COVID-19, healthcare, and race relations. He knows that this country right now is more divided than it has ever been. He's seen the ratcheting up. We've all seen the ratcheting up of racism from the Trump administration. And I think that Joe Biden has shown a clear path with him and Kamala Harris out of the devastation that we've seen from a president who ignores white supremacy. The other thing I definitely think is healthcare. We know that the Trump administration is doing its level best to try to get rid of Obamacare with the backdrop of a pandemic, try to get rid of a woman's right to choose. And I think that, the path forward for both Kamala and Joe Biden is to show people just how close we are to having that done. Should Americans not get out and support them at this point? And lastly, just COVID-19 in general. With President Trump, he has pulled every trick he has. He has fallen on the sword of xenophobia. We know that he harbors white supremacists. He is thrilled by them. He uses their language. If he's not one himself, he surely loves to count them among friends. We've also seen him separate families from their children at the border and claim that coyotes did it, even though this was the pathway that he chose to try to stop undocumented immigrants as well as those who are seeking asylum from coming to this country and finding safety at its borders. What we know right now is that President Trump isn't going to change. We knew that in 2016. Well, a lot of us should have known in 2016, but we definitely know it in 2020. And I think that what we learned last night was that President Trump is going to give more of the same. He did not announce anything that he hasn't already been doing. He's trying to re-invoke an economy that he thinks is strong. He's trying to reach out to black men. He's talking about how much he's done for the black community, the second coming of Abe Lincoln, if you will. All of that's hogwash, and I think that the American public is smart. I definitely know that black Americans are smarter and that we know what's at stake in this election. And from the numbers we've seen thus far, black people are really getting out the vote.
Dr. Carter, not only with the presidential race, we're seeing what's happening in the Senate races. Jamie Harrison, the first candidate ever to break the $100 million barrier. He is raising $1.5 million a day. It is a tight race in South Carolina. Many people are shocked that he is doing so well, according to the polling, and raising this kind of money against Senator Lindsey Graham. We also see what is happening in these critical Senate races all across the country. Arizona, where Mark Kelly is up against Martha McSally. Also, Colorado, Hickenlooper is up against Corey Sanders. Then, of course, you have the race taking place in Iowa, in Maine. The Democratic candidates are up. But we're seeing some softness on the Democratic side where it's a tight race for the Democratic Senator Smith in Minnesota. Gary Peters is in a tough race against John James in Michigan. Then, of course, we have Espy in Mississippi, Cal Cunningham versus Senator Tom Tillis in North Carolina. You also have Hagar against John Cornyn in Texas. Republicans are having to defend a whole lot of turf. Democrats simply need to pick up 3 Senate seats. If they win the White House, Kamala Harris is the tiebreaker. They want to win at least 5 to 6 seats. And don't forget Ossoff in Georgia leading against Purdue. Purdue, of course, screwed up mocking Senator Kamala Harris's name. That has helped John Ossoff. Raphael Warnock has now jumped ahead in the polling of Senator Kelly Loeffler and Congressman Doug Collins. And so this map, how it's playing out, Democrats are competing in places historically they have not been able to compete. It shows you the kind of intensity on the Democratic side and how Donald Trump has also pissed off many older white voters, independent voters as well.
Absolutely. And I think it shows sort of how short his coattails really are, because it was fine when it was looking like he might actually have a second term before COVID came. And then post-COVID, people had some explaining to do because many of these communities are hurting. And it shouldn't be the case that you have long-term incumbents being in dead heats with relative newcomers to these places. So I think it shows that if you put in the work, I mean, this is what Jesse Jackson said in the 1980s, right? That Reagan won by the margin of despair. And I think Democrats finally are getting that message in some of these places and saying, we've left these votes on the table for far too long. These states are actually in play. And thankfully, you had new folks coming on the national scene like Stacey Abrams and others who have been building infrastructures in these places to make them competitive. Now, Democrats have to press the gas here, right? They cannot do what they normally done and just sort of say, okay, well, we got this place, we're comfortable. No, you have the money, you need to spend it, and you need to spend it all and max out in these places to make sure that people are still turning out to vote, because we have to remember voter intimidation is also on the rise in a lot of these places that we're talking about, not just suppression. So I think it's now the time for the Democrats to turn it on and go full out here in these places, whether it's South Carolina or North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Texas for sure. They have got to pour it on, and these down ballot races are critical, right, to what's going to happen with whoever becomes president. So they definitely have to make a play in all of these places, because these are vulnerable seats that shouldn't be vulnerable, quite frankly. So that tells you that people are rife to make a new choice.
There are very few undecideds out here, Michael Imhotep. It's really about turning out your people. Democrats are turning out in significant numbers. Republicans, though, have been listening to Donald Trump. They've been focused on voting on Election Day. Many people are predicting a huge surge of Republican voters. Democrats want to build up as large a lead as they can when it comes to mail-in voting and early voting as well. And so really right now, it's not about what more messaging you can put out to try to get people to come to your side. It's about how can you get your people out to the polls as much as possible.
Yeah, it's about turnout, but also more than just about turnout, Roland. So first of all, we see as of Thursday, October 22nd, Reuters is reporting 47 million people have voted early. Okay, huge increase over 2016, this time 2016. But it's about turnout, but not just about turnout, Roland. It's also about speaking to the issues and concerns of the voter. African-American voters, Hispanic voters, whoever. And I think that connecting with the message, dealing with coronavirus, the impact coronavirus has had on communities, African-American community, Hispanic community, et cetera. We're at about 223,000, 224,000 deaths, 8.4 million cases. We just saw today it set a record 81,000 cases, highest number of cases. Okay, so while Trump is on the debate stage last night trying to downplay the severity and saying we're about to turn a corner, around the corner is more deaths. Around the corner is more cases. So it's speaking to the issues, needs, and concerns, dealing with getting coronavirus under control, expanding the economy, opening the economy back up, his Build Back Better plan, 18 million jobs that his plan will create, 7 million more than Trump, things like this, clean, green energy jobs, et cetera. It speaks directly to the issues, not playing gospel music in the commercials, but speak to the issues and concerns of the voter.
Well, again, that's exactly what this is all about. And so when we begin to look at this here, the impact, Amisha, is also on the down ballot races. You have Arabas Ayala is not running for re-election, but an African-American woman did win the Democratic primary. And so she may become the second African-American state's attorney here. You have a brother who is running for district attorney in Hamilton County there in Cincinnati. You've got African-Americans, 5 statewide in North Carolina who are running as well. That's the case all across the country. And so you got a black woman who is running for the Supreme Court in Texas. And so with people, again, so much energy, Amisha, is always on the top of the ticket. But the reality is Democrats are hoping you're going to see that sort of come down and impact those down ballot races And again, when it comes down to the margins, that's why, like we're about to talk with Desmond Meade in a second, the formerly incarcerated, they made a difference for John Bel Edwards in Louisiana. Those 40,000 different people, 40,000 folks who had their rights restored, he won by a thin margin for Louisiana governor. This is how you have to win. And so really right now, it's going to be push as hard as you can, put as much money as you can on the streets, getting these organizations out here to connect with people, driving them to the polls. That's what's key. And again, emphasizing, don't wait until Election Day. If you got a state with early voting, do it now.
No, you're absolutely right, Roland. And the DNC should be thankful for Black media, specifically shows like this, where you have said month after month, time after time, the importance of those down ballot races. Those are the ones that make the most changes in the everyday lives of African Americans and other minorities across this country. So we're talking about those attorney generals. We're talking about those things, those roles that exist within the state that not only control criminal justice reform, but also different ballot referendums that make sense for your community and your district. And I think that, the turnout that we've seen thus far has been amazing. We're already seeing tons of records be shattered by the millions who've shown up to vote. But that's not the end of it. We know that there are millions more that need to get out. Vote early. Vote as early as you can. Make sure that if you are doing your vote by mail, that you're also paying attention to the rules and regulations of the area you happen to be in. Make sure that you're signing it. Make sure that you are reading it specifically before you actually take it and drop it off at the post office or drop it off at a ballot box. One of the things that we need to be very certain of is that the closer we get to November 3rd, or closest we get to Election Day, we have a president, we have a constrained Trump administration right now that is on the ropes and fully recognize that not only are their seats about to be up, those positions about to be up, but also the Senate and also a lot of Republican-held seats at the state level. And that's something that they are willing to do anything and everything to stop. So we're going to see amplified voter suppression. We're going to see amplified voices of negativity, and we're going to see a lot of those negative ads and ads that don't make sense that come about during social media as well as in your inbox, some of them triggered by Russia, some of them by other foreign entities. But we're also going to see a lot of voter intimidation from physical human beings at these polling places on Election Day. That is something that the Trump administration, something that conservatives want to see happen. It's something that they have been planning on. And it's one of the reasons why they are, quite frankly, very frustrated at the numbers they're seeing right now in terms of the early voting totals. Because as Roland mentioned a moment ago, they're counting on Republicans coming out on Election Day. But should you so not be someone who has not already cast your vote early or isn't planning on casting it early as a minority, as a Black person, as a person of color, rest assured that if you're in one of these battleground states or a southern state or a state that has consistently voted red, that is now poised to turn blue, like Georgia, then there is going to be quite a bit of amplified nonsense that you're going to see on Election Day.
When you talk about those down ballot states, the state races, that is huge, Dr. Carter, because what's happening here, Republicans right now control 29 state legislatures, meaning they control both houses. Democrats could very well win in Arizona, control the Arizona House. They could win also in Texas, first time in 20 years controlling the Texas House. That matters with redistricting. And so what you're seeing here, when Governor Greg Abbott put forth to stop the mail drop boxes limited to one in each county, that wasn't about Biden-Harris. That was about maintaining control of the Texas House because they are getting crushed in the suburbs in Texas, and they're desperately trying to hold on to those positions. And so what we're seeing here, we are seeing, again, the anger against Donald Trump is fueling the Democratic side, and Republicans are trying to hold on because they want to be able to maintain that level of power because they know if they lose this election and you recreate that multicultural alliance of also young voters combined with older white voters elected Obama twice, Republicans know they have a problem in the next several elections for a very long time.
Absolutely, which is also why they want to end the census early, because that's the day you need to do the redistricting process, which happens at the state level. State legislatures have a lot of power. That's why those offices are so prized. And that's why you see the balance of power so out of whack in this country, because Republican values, quite frankly, are becoming in the minority in this country. But they know that if they can control these state legislatures and the redistricting process, they can control our process and our politics for at least a decade at the state level. And if they can get, of course, gubernatorial seats, and of course they can get presidential seats, then they can get judicial nominations that are also really important. So Republicans have been thinking about this for a long time, which is why they've been so aggressive in getting these down ballot races, because with relatively little money, you can flip these seats and you can control a state's politics for a very long time. And in that time, you can do a lot of damage to the communities that are most vulnerable and most easy to dissuade from showing up on election days. So they know what's at stake here, and they're going to fight tooth and nail. I agree with Amisha. They're not going to let this go easily. So there are going to be a lot of challenges, not only to the modes of election, but to actual election results, I feel, after this moment, because they know if they lose now, then this is probably, lights out for them, which is why the judicial nominations they've made have been so critical, because it could happen at the judicial level. Another way to reinstitute them into the power they currently hold in these states.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, the folks at Ceek.com, black-owned company founded by Mary Spio. They, of course, a virtual reality company. You can check out their content at Ceek.com, CEEK.com. You can do so, of course, with these VR headsets. You can look at it, of course, on your regular device or your pad or your computer. But if you want to experience being in the room, you can use this headset right here. All you simply do is just pop in your cell phone in here, pop it on, and then put this headset on, and you can literally experience their content in virtual reality. And so allows for you to do a 360-degree view of the room. But also, folks, they have the 360-degree 4D headphones right here. These are Bluetooth headphones. They have complete surround sound in terms of as you hear the particular music. Gamers love them as well when they're playing their games. And so it's just phenomenal bass in these headphones as well. You can get one or both devices at Ceek.com using this promo code RMVIP 2020, RMVIP 2020. So we certainly thank the folks at Ceek.com for being a partner with us here at Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right.